Welcome back to NUICfootball.com. I am your host, Kyle Kampmeyer. Week 7 proved to be what we thought it would be, just another week of blowout games. Forreston earned a hard-fought win, 22-21 over GCMS, but still didn't look to form to match their state ranking. We will see how legitimate Forreston is over the next 2 weeks as they play Du-Pec and Winslow. Dakota picked up a big 20-0 win over Galena to keep their playoff hopes alive. They once again enter that scenario this week when they travel to face Stockton. Leamon Winslow picked up their 26th consecutive win for a new NUIC record. The previous record was held by Galena from week 1 of 1997 through week 11 of 1998. Looking ahead into week 8, we will once again see more blowout games, but there are a few highlight games to watch for. Dakota and Stockton face off at John O'Boyle Field, where the winner keeps vying for a playoff spot, and the loser will watch week 10 from the sidelines. Fulton hits the road to face Knoxville. The Blue Bullets are undefeated and carry a lot of playoff points for Fulton, but a win for Fulton will help the other conference members for playoff seeding, along with giving the Steamers a higher seed themselves. Du-Pec will host Forreston in Durand for what on paper looks to be a big game. The true question remains, can Du-Pec stay on fire and continue to build a run game to match their passing game, and can Forreston finally play up to what expectations are, or are the Cardinals that we see currently who they actually are? River Ridge hosts West Prairie in a big game for 8-man seeding. Both teams enter at 4-3, but it is the Cyclones who are quickly slipping off the radar after a 4-0 start and then 3 consecutive blowout losses in a row. The Wildcats need this win for some validation to the playoff field. We will cover these games and more coming up next.
This NUICfootball.com production is powered by Lemon's Ambulance Service in Lena, Illinois. We always plan for the expected, but sometimes we need to plan for the unexpected. Lemons has been serving Stevenson and Joe Daviess counties since 1869. Call someone you can trust in your time of need. Call Lemon's Ambulance Service. Rose Bowman and the Choice Realty team understand that buying or selling real estate is among the most important financial transactions of your life. They are dedicated to providing personal and thorough service with a sharp focus on their clients' needs. Their licensed staff looks forward to assisting you in any of the following areas: residential, condominiums, new construction, land, farms, commercial, investment, or leasing. Choice Realty is locally owned and operated with offices in Freeport, Galena, and the Galena territories. So when it's time to buy or sell, give Rose Bowman a call at 630-697-2480.
Orangeville at Amboy gives us a matchup of 2 potential playoff teams. However, Orangeville come into this game with a 4-3 record, while Amboy remains perfect at 7-0. Last year, Amboy won this game 68-14 in week 2. Last week, Orangeville beat Christian Life 56-18, while Amboy beat AFC 68-0. Amboy's going to enter this game as a 53-point favorite, so there's not a whole lot to really talk about in this game. The big things are going to be, can Orangeville start the game by matching the physicality that the Clippers have? If they can, this could be a game to watch, especially with the running game of Blake Fulgate and the passing game of Cody Worth. However, if they cannot get their offensive and defensive lines to match the intensity up front that Amboy is expected to bring, and then the running game of Landon Welcho, the passing game of Eddie Jones, along with the receiving game of Brennan Blaine, and then that ferocious defense led by the edges of Brennan Blaine and Quinn Leffelman, Orangeville's not going to stand much of a chance in this game. Amboy, on the other side, just needs to continue to plug away at what they need to work on and continue to build off of that. And then once the game gets out of hand, put their subs in to get some more experience under their belts and get prepared for the playoffs at the same time while staying fresh, so to speak, with a quick win. But Amboy is the heavy favorites in this one. Milledgeville travels to Unity Christian, where last year Unity Christian won this game 58-56 in Week 5. Milledgeville enters this game 6-1, while Unity Christian enters this game at 0-7. At the beginning of the season, this game looked like a big one on paper, thinking that Unity Christian, returning a lot of players off of last year's squad, was going to be a state-ranked team vying for a potential shot at Monmouth. Unfortunately, they had a bunch of kids that decided to transfer last minute to go win one game with Macon Meridian. On the other side of things, last week, Milledgeville beat Pawnee 42-18 without quarterback Connor Nye, while Unity Christian lost to West Central 68-24. The Missiles are going to enter this game as a 75-point favorite, and with that, there's really not a lot to talk about here as well. Milledgeville should be expected to go in and just dominate Unity Christian in this game. Hopefully we see Connor Knight return. We're not sure what happened last week as to why he did not play. We were only informed that it was a coach's decision for him not to play. So, there's many things to read into that, but that's about all we have for you at this time. Either way, hopefully it's nothing serious, and Connor Knight can return to the game field this week. But don't expect him to be on the field very long if this one gets out of control quickly. Milledgeville is expected to win big, should win big. Expect that to happen. Quest travels to Polo to play the Marcos in their first ever meeting. Quest will enter this game at 0-7, while Polo enters at 6-1. Last week, Quest lost 50-22 to River Ridge, while Polo beat Blue Ridge 52-12. Polo enters this game as 90-point favorites, so this one might be over by halftime. If it's not, I will be extremely surprised. But with that said, again, get some guys in here. We're starting to see numbers for Brock Soto kind of taper off a little bit, along with Dilo Fernandez. And a lot of that's because they're playing these blowout games and they're getting taken out of the games. So we're not seeing them accumulate the numbers that we would think that they should have. But with that said, it allows you to stay healthy and keep the big picture alive. Come into this game, get out healthy, get out with a big win, and then get prepared for that Week 9 matchup with Amboy, and that's all Polo has to look forward to. The Marcos win this one, landslide, game, set, match.
Our 8-man game of the week is brought to you by Best Realty. Best Realty has been helping Northern Illinois tackle their real estate needs since 1990. Whether you're buying or selling in the market for residential, commercial, or acreage, they'll help you get the best deal. Call the Best Realty team at 815-248-3408 or visit them online at bestrealtyproperties.com.
Our Best Realty 8-man game of the week features West Prairie traveling to River Ridge, where both teams enter this game at 4-3, and it's the first time these two teams have met up. Last week, West Prairie lost 52-12 to Ridgewood, while River Ridge beat Quest 50-22. Both teams have lost in convincing fashion to playoff teams, so this should be a great game for both teams to get a barometer of where each other are. But at the same time, you have playoff seeding on the line in this game, as right now, River Ridge is the favorite by a 10-point score differential. With that said, a win here for River Ridge should set them up for a 6-3 finish, whereas a loss for West Prairie would look like a 5-4 finish. So whoever wins this game is going to go 6-3, have a better playoff seed, better opportunity to move on into the quarterfinals. The loser's going to get the 5-4 seed. We'll play tougher competition right out of the gates to start the playoff rounds. Either way, this is by far the best game on docket this week in 8-man play, and it should be a great one in River Ridge. What the Wildcats need to do is continue to get things going with Seth Nicholas. They're going to have to rely on Damon Dittmar as well in order to keep things going, continue to build with that line play that they have. Ben Richmond's been a standout on defense for the Wildcats all year long. They need to continue to attack the ball, seal off the edges, and then play good pass defense at the same time. If they can continue to do these things and continue to build week to week, not only will we see River Ridge end with a 6-3 record, but we might even see them go a little bit further than expected as well. Time will tell if that will happen, but a quarterfinal round is not out of the expectations here for the Wildcats, provided that they finish the deal and get to 6-3. But you got to get this one first. River Ridge is the favorite. They're my pick to win.
This portion of our broadcast is brought to you by Du-Pec Epoxy Flooring. Serving northern Illinois and southern Wisconsin, Du-Pec Epoxy is the source for all of your epoxy needs. Give Du-Pec Epoxy Flooring a call today at 815-239-1158 for your free estimate.
Arguably one of our best games in NUIC action this week is Dakota traveling to Stockton, where both teams enter this game at 3-4. Last year, Dakota won this game 34-20 in week 3. Last week, Dakota beat Galena 20-0, while Stockton beat West Carroll 46-6. As both these teams continue to do exactly what we expected them to do in order to fight for a 5-4 finish. But what we have here is a game where the winner is going to continue to fight for that 5-4 spot, and the loser is going to come up short. Our original predictions at the beginning of the year had both these teams potentially being at 5-4 to enter the playoffs as the 5th and 6th teams out of the conference to do so. However, unfortunately, that's all turned aside with losses to teams that either they should have maybe been more competitive in those games to provide themselves an opportunity to win, or they just fell flat on their face. Either way, this game here is that game. Stockton enters as a 10-point favorite, and it's going to come down to what can Dakota do. We already know that they changed quarterbacks to Drake Davis to allow Nolan Mayberry to be in the backfield to utilize his speed in the run game. Dakota's gone to that wishbone-style offense, and with it, they've been able to do some things relatively good throughout the course of the season. The problem is the lack of consistency and the ability to compete with the top of the conference teams. They've been blowing out when they've gone up against the Lena Winslows, the Forrestons, the Du-Pecs, and the Fultons. Forreston, not so much of a blowout, but they were down by 3 touchdowns at one point. While that game did not actually replicate what the score truly was, Dakota did do some great things against the Cardinals in that game. Stockton, on the other hand, similar situation. You take a look at what they've done on the year, and they lost a close one to Du-Pec that you wish they had back. But then they got blown out by Lena Winslow. Surprisingly, they got blown out by Fulton. Thought that was going to be a much closer game than that 40-16 score ended up being. And then just 2 weeks ago, they lost a tight one to Forreston by almost a similar score that Dakota lost to Forreston by. There was only a 4-point differential in the two outcomes there, which leads you to believe that this game here is going to be a good one. The thing that Stockton needs to do is they need to be able to get a good push from their offensive and defensive lines, led by Michael Haas and Wesley Logeman. If they can do that, they're going to be very hard for Dakota to beat. On the other side of the ball, though, Dakota can challenge that. They have the size to match up. It's going to be, do they have the strength to do it as well? If Stockton gets the edge on that line, it'll be in their advantage, obviously, for all intents and purposes. But at the same time, it'll allow Tanner Guile and Carl Hubb more likely to have bigger holes to run through, while also providing protection for Colby Tucker to make some pass plays and decision-making to allow him time to look downfield and probably hit Brady Haas for a couple big scores. With that, Dakota's got to limit that passing attack from Tucker as well. The likes of Brody Good and Nolan Mayberry in the defensive backfield, they're going to have to come up with some big plays in order to stop that from happening. While the middle of the Indian defense is going to have to stay focused on gap responsibility and sealing off the edge on the outside run. Provided that they can do that, we're going to have a great matchup here, regardless of how we see it. But if Dakota can do those things, they are going to set themselves up with the opportunity to drive this game. Now, some of the things that we've seen out of both teams is that inconsistency to own the line of scrimmage. So that's going to be our telltale sign in this game once we kick off Friday night. The team that takes advantage of that line is going to be the team that will most likely be on top at the end of the game. So it's going to come down to really that cliche, who wants it more. So, in this one, Stockton is the favorite. Right now on paper, Stockton is also the favorite to win this game. Fulton travels down to Knoxville to play the Blue Bullets while Fulton comes in at a 4-3 record. Knoxville enters this game with a 7-0 record. It's the first time these two teams are meeting up. Last week, Fulton beat Du-Pec 46-4, or Fulton lost to Du-Pec 46-14. Knoxville beat West Hancock 47-26. Surprisingly, after running all the numbers and going through our playoff outlook and breakdown, while we have Knoxville winning this game, Fulton enters this game as a 3-point favorite. So what that tells us is that this game, despite the record differential, could be a very good game. Now, one of the things that we're going to see here is Knoxville likes to run the ball a lot. They are a double wing team, so you're going to see a lot of things similar to what we see out of Forreston, and that they're going to try to, they're going to run belly, they're going to run trap, they're going to run double dive, double lead, all that good jazz. They're going to try to kick it to the outside as well. Fulton, on the other hand, has to be able to defend that. That's been one of their key nemesis, is they get up against a team that can run the ball, and when they do that, they tend to lose control of those games. Now, they were able to control Dakota and Stockton in their run game concepts, while Stockton kind of is more of a mirror image of what Fulton is, where they can run, they like to mix it up, they like to spread it out and throw the ball around too. Dakota is just wishbone offense, wants to throw out of the wishbone as well, and then run in different directions and create havoc that way. With that said, though, Fulton has to be able to stay home. They have to be able to get that line play. We've seen Josiah Held really be the guy that kind of leads this defensive and offensive lines, but we need to see more, not out of necessarily him, but his partners around him to help keep Knoxville from running the ball all over the place. If they can do that, they're going to give themselves good field position and opportunity to make plays. With that said, on the offensive side, they have to be able to take control of this game. You can't force mistakes. If something's not there, we got to be able to see Dom Kramer look downfield, try to make a play downfield. If there's nothing there, don't force it. You got to be able to just take off and go. We saw some of that here this past week. Granted, there was some desperation modes, and unfortunately, it led to some bad plays for the Steamers, leading to good plays ultimately, and the lopsided win for Du-Pec. If Fulton can clean that stuff up, though, they give themselves a good opportunity to beat Knoxville in this game. I do like the Fulton in this game. I think that they have an opportunity to win. I am going to stick with my pick that Knoxville does win this game, but I would not be surprised to see the Steamers pull this out. Galena travels to Lena Winslow, where they enter with a 2-5 record, while Lena Winslow comes in with a 7-0 record. Last year, Lena Winslow won this game 46-0 in week 3. Last week, Galena lost 20-0 in Dakota, while Lena Winslow won 46-6 to EPC. Lena Winslow enters this game as 42-point favorite. So, what does that mean? It means that it should be an easy night for the Panthers. However, we thought that Galena could be a team that would compete for an opportunity to play in the playoffs. We predicted them to be 2-7 on the year. Right now they sit at 2-5, and looking ahead between now and next week, the likelihood of them being 2-7 kind of falls right into favor with our preseason prediction. Galena needs to find a way to bear down and compete, though. They have to be able to continue to fight and build. One of the things that we saw last week against Dakota is it just kind of seemed like they weren't in that game all the way. And when you have those issues, bad things happen. For Galena, going up against Lena Winslow, you got to focus in on Gage Dunker, getting him to not hurt you. But that's also tough to say. I mean, he's already ran for 1,200 yards on the year, just put up another 200-yard game this past week. And when you have that in front of you, it's tough to stop. But it can be done. We've seen great backs get shut down before. And that's where the Pirates need to focus. You got to be able to shut down that trap up the middle, the dive off the edge, and then work on getting those counters and all that good stuff that Lena Winslow likes to do, and keep it in front of you. But you got to beat them to the edge. That's a big thing. And then you got to try to beat them up front. That's the other thing. That's the toughest one right there. There's not a whole lot to talk about here because Lena Winslow is just too much of a favorite in this game. They're going to win this one big. But you never know. We've seen different things happen. Maybe Galena might put up a fight for a while. Let's hope that they can, because it'd be great to see them be able to build some stuff up. They're still a young team. They got a lot of things to continue to work on and build on. And while they're not in an opportunity to make the playoffs anymore, they can still spoil opportunities for others. Will it happen this week? Probably not, but you never know. That's why you play the game. But Lena Winslow wins this one big. West Carroll travels to EPC, where the Thunder are 0-7, and EPC enters at 1-6. Last year, EPC won this game 61-0 in Week 7. Last week, West Carroll scored their first points in NUIC action, getting a touchdown against Stockton. However, they did lose 46-6 to the Blackhawks, and EPC lost to Lena Winslow 46-6 as well. EPC is going to enter this game as a 3-touchdown favorite. With that said, this might be the closest game outside of that Aurora Central Catholic game, which both of these teams played. EPC got their only win against Aurora Central Catholic. West Carroll had their best game against Aurora Central Catholic, despite the loss. However, that they were drastically different games. You take a look at EPC, they beat Aurora Central Catholic 40-15, while West Carroll lost that game 42-20. So when you take a look at how they lost, the point differential, the spread at which EPC won by, along with the remaining schedule that each of these teams have played, it's easy to see where EPC should be able to come to this game and take control of it quick and in a hurry. The Wildcats have not been living up to expectations. We thought that they would go 4-5 this year, which that's long gone. A 2-7 finish is probably what we'll see most likely out of EPC. While we did expect West Carroll to go 0-9, they're well on their way to that finish as well, unfortunately for them. But you got to continue to build. So this comes down to pride. You got to be able to build for what you have for next year, and how bad do you want to have it. If you want to cash it in and throw it all in, you're just hurting your opportunities and chances to continue to build for what you could have next season. Hopefully neither of these teams do that. I don't expect them to do that. We have not seen that yet, which is a great thing out of both these programs. But EPC should win this one handily.
Our 11-man game of the week is brought to you by Best Realty. Best Realty has been helping Northern Illinois tackle their real estate needs since 1990. Whether you're buying or selling, in the market for residential, commercial, or acreage, they'll help you get the best deal. Call the Best Realty team at 815-248-3408 or visit them online at bestrealtyproperties.com.
Our Best Realty game of the week in the NUIC takes us to Durand, where Du-Pec will play host to Forreston. The Cardinals come in at 7-0. Du-Pec enters at 6-1. Last year, these two teams squared off in Week 2, where Du-Pec won 36-26. Last week, Forreston won 22-21 over GCMS, while Du-Pec beat Fulton 46-14. The Rivermen will enter this game favored by 8 points. So on paper, this game looks to be like a very tough game. But when you break down the competition that each team has played and do the side-by-side comparisons, Du-Pec definitely looks like a heavy favorite over Forreston in this game. About the only time we've seen Forreston do anything relatively close to what Du-Pec has done was back in Week 1 when Du-Pec beat Stockton 20-16 and Forreston beat Fulton 22-18. Since then, it's been an all-out war. Forreston did beat Stockton 22-8 2 weeks ago, but Du-Pec toppled Fulton 46-14 to give us our most recent comparison of these two teams from Week 1 to Weeks 6 and 7. With that said, the Rivermen are playing at a much higher level right now than what the Cardinals are. I was able to get the opportunity to watch both these teams live in action this past week, and there's definitely a clear differential in this game. Du-Pec has more team speed than what Forreston has shown us this year. With that said, though, Forreston is still Forreston. They're still a very well-disciplined team. One of the things that we're not seeing that we normally see is the line play that Forreston traditionally has to help spring holes to get their backs to the second level. At the same time, the speed of Forreston is not to the level that we are used to seeing it either. They have a lot of returning guys, and they have some good running backs, but that overall team speed just is not where we've seen it in years past, and that could ultimately derail the Cardinals at some point. Hopefully not. There's a lot of people that would like to see the Cardinals have a long playoff run, and for the sake of the conference, it would be a great thing to see Forreston have a long playoff run as well. But Du-Pec is the team behind the arm of Cooper Hoffman. We were able to see not only Hoffman get the running game going, but we got to see a big run out of Jalen Nowd. Connor Hughes had a career night with 88 yards and 4 touchdowns in the last week's game. And, with that, you hope that that trend can continue. On the other side for the Cardinals, in Saturday's game with GCMS, Owen Mulder really stood out the most. There was a lot of things that he was able to do with the traps and the dives that really opened up his ability to run. We saw Dane Sedersham be able to get some things going as well with that run game. But getting to the outside edge with Micah Nelson and Caleb Sanders proved to be a little bit tougher for the Cardinals. And that's something that really helps Forreston in their run game is when they can run you up the middle on the traps and the dives, and then all of a sudden they kick it out on one of their counters or sweeps, and they can beat you to that outside edge and turn the corner. Right now, it doesn't seem something that Forreston's capable of doing, but on the other side of the ball, that's what Du-Pec needs to defend against. If they can do that and then get pressure on Brady Gill when he goes to throw, with the defensive backfield and the skill set that Du-Pec has back there, that all roads point to Du-Pec winning this game by more than what the favorite is. They should cover and more in this game. Du-Pec is my pick to win.
Our NUICfootball.com state rankings are presented by Leading Edge Fundraising. If you need to raise funds for new uniforms, tournament expenses, equipment, or more, look no further. Brandon Sharp at Leading Edge makes it easy for you and your team to have a fun and competitive way to raise funds for your program. Give Brandon a call today at 563-514-1647. Leading Edge Fundraising, your premier fundraising company.
Our NUICfootball.com state rankings are brought to you by Leading Edge Fundraising. We'll start in 8-man, which is normal for what we always do. Not a lot of changes to the 8-man poll, despite some of the records and what's happened. A couple here and there, but not a whole lot. Staying at number 1 is Amboy at 7-0, and remaining at number 2 are the Milledgeville Missiles at 6-1. Jumping up to number 3 are the St. Thomas More Sabres as they improved to 7-0, and dropping to number 4 are the Polo Marcos at 6-1. Coming back up to number 5 is Ridgewood at 5-2. Martinsville's at number 6 at 6-1. Milford Cisna Park jumps up to number 7 with a 5-2 record. South Fork drops down to number 8 as they fall to 5-2. South Beloit is 9 at 5-2 as they drop 2 spots after that loss. And coming at number 10 is Flanagan Cornell Woodland at 5-2. Only one team left receiving votes this week, and that is the Pawnee Indians, as they are 4-3 after last week's loss. Jumping over to Class 1A, again, a lot of similar faces and a lot of similar spots as we head into Week 8. At number 1, Lena Winslow is 7-0. Jumping up to number 2 is Althoff Catholic at 6-1. Number 3 is Camp Point Central at 7-0. Number 4 is Forreston at 7-0. Falling down to number 5 is Morrison at 6-1. And number 6 is Hope Academy at 6-1. Number 7 is Greenfield Northwestern as they are 7-0. And at number 8 is Newman Central Catholic at 6-1. Number 9 is Aurora Christian at 6-1, and rounding out the top 10 is Stark County at 7-0. Other teams receiving votes are Fulton at 4-3, Leroy at 7-0, and KZ Westfield at 6-1. Over in Class 2A, once again, a lot of familiar faces here as the top keeps rising to the top and they continue to win. Number 1, Moreau Forsyth is 7-0. Number 2, Bloomington Central Catholic is 7-0. At number 3 is Seneca at 7-0, and number 4 is Tri-Valley at 7-0. Athens comes in at number 5 at 6-1, and jumping up to number 6 is Rockridge at 6-1. That drops Knoxville down 1 spot from last week to 7-0, and Shelbyville comes in at number 8 at 7-0. Johnston City is number 9 at 7-0, and rounding out the top 10 is Mater Dei at 5-2. Other teams receiving votes are Farmington at 6-1, El Paso Gridley at 5-2, and Moments at 6-1. And in Class 3A, once again, not a lot of movement here either. There's a good set of teams here that everybody expects to be towards the top of this classification when the playoffs start, and the rankings show just that. Number 1 is Byron at 7-0. Coming back up to number 2 on the season is Princeton at 6-1. Dropping to number 3 is Montini Catholic at 5-2. Moving up to number 4 is Wilmington at 6-1, although we do expect to see Wilmington in Class 2A for the playoffs as projections and projections show that they will most likely land back in Class 2A. At number 5 is Du-Pec at 6-1. And number 6 is Roxana at 7-0. Number 7, despite the loss last week, Williamsville is 5-2. Number 8 is St. Joe Ogden at 5-2. Number 9 is Olympia at 5-2. And rounding out the top 10 is DuQuoin at 7-0. Other teams receiving votes are Greenville at 7-0 and Tolono Unity at 5-2. So that gives you a look at our NUICfootball.com state rankings as we move into week number 8.
Our NUICfootball.com Players of the Week is sponsored by our friends at Benchwarmers. Each winner receives an extra large pizza and a dozen boneless wings. Just stop in to claim your prize. Located in Freeport at 2143 West Galena Avenue, Benchwarmers is a great place to gather with friends to watch the big game. For American pub food and fun at its finest, check out Benchwarmers. And make sure you try the cheese curds.
Our Benchwarmers Player of the Week for 8-man is Damon Dittmar from River Ridge. Last week, Damon rushed for 51 yards, threw the ball for 24 yards, had 4 touchdowns while picking up 4 tackles in a 50-22 win over Quest Charter Academy. Congratulations, Damon, on your Player of the Week honors. And on the 11-man side, our award goes to Connor Hughes of Du-Pec. Connor rushed for 88 yards and 4 touchdowns in a career day while picking up 3 tackles to help lead Du-Pec to a 46-14 win over Fulton in our Game of the Week. Congratulations, Connor, on your Player of the Week honors. All right, that gives us a wrap-up of what we had in Week 7, what we're looking forward to coming into Week 8 here. And as you can see, there's a lot of games that I expect to be blowouts as we move forward into this second to last week. But what we should start to see is that playoff picture grow more clear. And it'll really, especially for the 11-man side of things, we'll start to be able to see that balance break out as we move into Week 9. We'll be able to see where those 4-4 teams are, what remaining games they have, to see if they are playing opponents that can either win or lose. We do expect to see some 4-5 at-large bids make the playoffs. Right now, that number is sitting right around 8 teams that are expected to be in the playoffs at 4-5. We definitely in Class 1A to 2A could see 2, maybe 3 teams. Doubt we'll get to 3, but we could see that happen. But, we're taking a look at how this all pairs out. It's going to give us a better view of what is to look ahead. With that said, we do have some good games here this week still to pay attention to, with West Prairie and River Ridge on the 8-man side of things. We have Dakota and Stockton playing for their playoff life. Fulton at Knoxville playing for playoff seeding, along with playoff points for their respective conferences. And then Forreston and Du-Pec in what is our game of the week, but at the same time, a game that, could bring us a lot more information to both teams as we move into the final weeks of the season before we hit the playoffs. Looking ahead, on October 21st, we will have our NUICfootball.com playoff show. It will be held at 7 p.m. on Selection Saturday. I'll be myself along with a host of other colleagues, which include Greg Armstrong, Joe Murdian from Illinois 8-Man Football, and WLLT out of Polo. And then we'll also have Greg Pruis on. Perhaps somewhere in there we'll be able to get some other people lined up. But right now, that's who we have for our panel. It should be a great night. A lot of information to go through from 8-man to Class 3A. But right now we're in Week 8. There's still a lot of good games out there. Get out, support your teams. As always, root for the NUIC.